Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. That includes all our viewers and especially our guests here who are with us today. And so firstly, it's Dr. Zahid who's here with us today, and also Sister Hamima, and they will inshallah introduce themselves when they begin to speak. The main purpose of us doing this, firstly, is to create awareness. Can you firstly hear me clearly enough, or is there some kind of
there's a bit of
echo?
feedback. Yeah, there's a bit of echo.
Okay, I'm just going to mute everyone else and then see if hopefully if it works. Go. Let me try that again. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Better. Okay, so inshallah I will unmute everyone else when you are actually talking. I think that would solve the problem. So just to start again, we're here with the principal, Dr. Zahid Parvez from Markfield Institute of Higher Education, and with him are two of his students as well. So they are Abdullah and also Hamima. They will introduce themselves and talk about the institute when it comes to time. But just for now, and the reason for us doing this is so that we can create awareness about this wonderful institute doing brilliant work for the Muslim Ummah. And so if some of you wanted to study Islam, for instance, in an academic setting, here is your chance, because not only you can study Islam from an academic perspective, but also traditional as well. But you can also gain qualified, you can get certification, which is recognized by mainstream educational bodies as well. So we would like to thank Dr. Zahid and also Sister Hamima and Brother Abdullah for joining us and taking out their time and sharing with us what they have to offer. And I think one of the main reasons why we wanted to have a session with them today and give our viewers and our students and parents and also our staff the chance to ask them questions about this is because before we used to hear about Markfield Institute, but then in order to study at Markfield, you had to travel all the way to Markfield, so near Leicester. But now, as we're hearing the news that there is going to be a branch of some sort in London, so you don't have to travel far in order to do courses at the Markfield Institute of Higher Education. They have come to us here in London. And, this is our chance to find out more about their courses, what kind of courses they're offering, and also ask whatever questions you need to ask before you want to think about enrolling onto Markfield Institute of Higher Education. And that's for if you want to do that now or next year, or for our younger students who may think about this as a career prospect in the years to come, inshallah. So first of all, before we start, we just want to bring over Dr. Zahid. So I'm just going to bring Dr. Zahid forward. So Dr. Zahid, I'm going to unmute you now. If you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we can do your presentation as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What I will do very briefly in about a few minutes, just give you a brief introduction of what the Markfield Institution is all about, what courses we offer, what facilities we have, and then I will invite questions from yourself, things which you want to find out about your studies, if you are interested to apply to us. So as you can see from this very first slide, some of our campus is shown, but that's about half of the campus. And on the other side, there's the other half. So in total, it's about 9.3 acre land. And it's in a village 8 miles away from Leicester. And it's a really ideal place to study, very peaceful, very quiet. There's no city or town distractions. And students are able to really focus and concentrate. Now, this Markfield Institute, if you can show the next slide, it shows basically we were established in the year 2000. And if I can explain the reason for establishing this institute, there were a few universities which used to offer BA and MA programs around Islamic studies, but maybe submerged into Orientalist or Middle East studies and things like that. And most of these courses, although they were highly intellectual, they were mainly from the Orientalist perspectives. and some of our classical scholars and modern Islamic scholars, their views were not captured. So students came out with a very particular thinking about Islam. So it was not of much service to the Muslim community, and we were not really developing scholars who would be, able to apply Islam in some of the issues we are facing in this part of the world, in Europe. So with consultation, the Islamic Foundation, which is also based at the same campus, they thought that we need to establish an institution which will offer undergraduate and postgraduate courses, so that people from the classical Islamic studies backgrounds can convert their degrees into recognized qualifications and then be able to work in the mainstream as teachers, as people in the economic banking sector, people in the education sector, and also working with local authorities and government in policy making. So that was the background behind it. So we started in 2000 formally, and when we started with the PhD programs first, because the Islamic Foundation became well known for its research in Islamic economics. In fact, they became the pioneers of this field, and they were able to network scholars internationally, and they held a number of international conferences, and they also published a huge amount of literature in this area. So we started with PhD, and we were validated by the University of Portsmouth in the first few years. And then we started our master's programs in Islamic banking and Islamic studies, and then slowly we offered more masters, and then we started our BA programs in 2012, 2013. So this is how we have developed, and we have been validated by different universities over the last 20 years. This is our 20th year, from Portsmouth University to Loughborough University to University of Gloucestershire, and now we are with Newman University, which is based in Birmingham. The reason why we moved from different universities is because of the Quality Assurance Agency. They wanted us to be validated by a university which has subject expertise. Loughborough University, they had a few professors, but they retired, so they no longer could validate us. And then we moved to Gloucester, where they had a theology department, but again, some of the Islamic scholars left, so they could no longer check our standards, and that's why we had to move on. Whereas Newman University is established, it was a college of theology first, studying Catholic teachings, and then it became a university. So they are validating us at the moment. So this is how we were established, and whole idea of the Markfield Institute is to provide professional training and higher education to fill this important gap, because other universities were not filling in this gap. So those who are from the traditional Darul Uloom, they've got the classical knowledge, so they can then come and join us and develop this further, understand the Orientalist perspective, understand the modern Islamic scholars and also the classical scholars, all in an integrated way, and then develop their own conclusions. And because of our PhD program, our lecturers are also involved in original research. So this is a brief background. So on the next slide, you will see what higher education is all about. If you can show all the points. There are a couple of points on the slide. Now, can I just, because most of the people are from the school, if I can explain the difference between school education and higher education. In schools, you build the basic foundational knowledge in a range of subjects: mathematics, language, history, science, technical drawing, and other areas. And then at A levels and further education, you develop more advanced knowledge in some of the subjects students want to study. But so it's all knowledge based. So you learn from books, you understand or memorize things, and and then you move on. But in higher education, we do not follow textbooks. Students are expected to read widely and develop their independent thinking. So in a 3-year degree course, the whole idea of any subject, whether it's medicine, engineering, management, or theology, the idea is to help students within 3 years to stand on their own feet so they become independent learners. So a degree offers a specialization. You want to become a teacher, you want to become a historian, you want to become a mathematician, you want to become expert in chemistry or any other science. So it's a highly specialized, in-depth study of a particular subject to prepare you for the professional world. And it also helps you to develop this independent learning, critical thinking, critical analysis of problems. And also within 3 years, the degree aims to help students to create their own knowledge. So by creation of knowledge, I mean they're able to do original research, which no one has done before, to add to knowledge. And this is how knowledge continuously develops, when researchers begin to add knowledge. So part of higher education is also to develop confidence among students, creativity through analysis and problem solving and creative thinking. Very few universities focus on character building. The Darul Ulooms pay a lot of attention on this, and we at Markfield also try to pay a lot of attention to character building, because we want our scholars not to be just loaded with knowledge, but they must have piety, they must speak the truth, they must uphold justice, and they must have a moral character, all the teachings in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, so that they are knowledgeable people, but they are also moral people with strong character who adhere to moral principles. So we also try to do these things. So this is what higher education is all about. And the next slide just gives you some more details, so you understand the difference between school, further education, and higher education. So at higher education is to develop an in-depth knowledge of a very narrow specific area, subject area. In our case, it's Islamic studies, it's pastoral care, it's education, it's sustainable development, and it's economics, banking, and finance. These are the areas we specialize in. Also, not only to have loads of knowledge, but to apply your knowledge in the real world, to solve real world problems. So part of the course is we engage students in the real problems so that they can begin to apply their knowledge in order to solve, analyze problems, and begin to provide solutions. So they become useful to society and be able to participate professionally as they graduate. Critical analysis is emphasized a lot. If you read a book, you have to analyze that book, not just duplicate what you have read. So that's descriptive knowledge. We want people to have a critical analysis. So they read the author. Where is the author coming from? What is the standpoint of the author? Which other authors differ from this? Are the conclusions of this author valid? Or can you challenge the conclusions? What data did the author use? Is this data acceptable, or is it biased in any way? So it's that kind of analysis, so that students do not begin to follow anything blindly, but they're able to analyze things and draw their own conclusions. And critical evaluation is to evaluate something, look at the worth of something, and come to your own conclusion. Synthesis is where you bring a range of knowledge together to create new knowledge and also to illuminate new issues in light of this synthesis. And then research methods we teach, so that students can learn how to research in a rigorous way, following a particular methodology. So not using layman's approach, but a proper, systematic, academic, rigorous approach to create certain knowledge. So this is what higher education is all about. Now on the next slide, we show what some of the courses which we offer. So as you can see, we are offering 5 BAs. At the moment, we only have 3 BAs, BA Islamic Studies, BA Islamic Studies with Arabic, and BA Islamic Finance and Accounting. However, we are hopeful that this year we are adding 2 more BAs. At the moment, they are with Newman University, who is looking at our proposals, and hopefully by end of July, we are hopeful that they will validate these 2 new courses, BA Islamic Studies with Education and BA Islamic Studies with Pastoral Care. So basically, those who are alims who have done the alim course can join any of these BA courses. So with the alim course, all the first year of all of these courses are common, and they map onto the alim course. So if you have already done an alim course from a recognized institution, then you will be exempted from level 1 of all of these courses. You go straight into level 2. So which means you can do your degree within 2 years. Now, by that I mean it's 6 modules you have to do each year. That's 120 credits. And each semester you do 3 modules. So 3 modules in semester 1, 3 modules in semester 2. So over 2 years you do 12 modules. And 3 modules is 3 hours each per week for 12 weeks. Our semester is 12 weeks. So you have to study 9 hours of contact time. You have to be in classes online or within the classroom for 9 hours a week. And BA is only offered full time. So full time is 9 hours contact. However, each module requires 200 hours of study time. So you will study 3 times 12, that's 36 hours of contact time, plus your independent study. Tutors will give you so much literature, papers, books to read. They will give you assignments, they'll give you, which you will do in your own time, and they will be discussed within the classroom, and feedback will be given to ensure that you are enhancing and developing your knowledge. So this is how our modules work. And then at the master's level, those who have a BA in any a subject, a BA degree, they can do our master's programs. And as you can see, the masters follow on from the BA, and they help students to specialize in. So what normally happens with the BA, some students go straight onto a master's, some of the students go and gain professional experience, and then they come back to do the master's study. And some of our students then go on to do PhD program. So these are some of the courses which we offer. On the next slide, there are a range of other courses which we offer, and these are short courses. Our most well-established course of the last 16, 17 years has been the certificate in Muslim chaplains, and that is held every year, and we can only recruit about 20 students per year, those who want to become chaplains. So, and then we offer all kinds of other courses which are 3 days or 5 days or 1 day courses, and we give our own certificate to these things. Now on the next slide, it just I'll zoom through this because it just gives you an overview of that we are a recognized, established higher education provider. We are registered company, and it's called a company limited by guarantee. That means we are a charity and a company. We have a board of governance, but they are not shareholders. None of the board of governors, they are there to make a profit. All the money goes back into the organization. So we are non-profit making. We are a charity. So none of the directors get any pay whatsoever. They establish Markfield so that it will be a sadaqah jariyah for them, and they have no other personal interest other than to ensure that we offer quality education, higher education, so that we can produce more scholars who will be able to work effectively in this part of the world. And we are registered formally by the Office for Students. Now this body is the only body, part of the education department, government's education department, which regulates universities and higher education. So all universities have to be registered with the Office for Students, and we are also registered with, and they regulate us. So like so under Office for Students, there are a number of other bodies which report to the Office for Students, and they regulate us. Like you have Ofsted to regulate schools, we have the Quality Assurance Agency. They come every year and they look at our quality and standards. And keep this in mind, that the students, when they do their assignments, the university which validates us, they appoint external examiners who are from other universities, and they double check the marking of our tutors to make sure we are marking them at the right standards, fairly and consistently. So we are registered with the Office for Students, and there are many annual returns, and we have direct inspections. So we have to meet all, just like Ofsted, every aspect of the organization has to be quality assured. And this thing which I have written next is called TEF, Teaching Excellence Framework. Last year and the year before, the Office for Students introduced this Teaching Excellence Framework, and they try to assess every university in the UK, including other higher education bodies like ourselves, to see and rate their teaching excellence. So out of, I don't know, 180, 200 higher education providers in this country, around 25, 30 managed to get gold. Many got silver and some got bronze. And Alhamdulillah, we were able to get silver rating. So, you know, we were quite pleased about that. So our teaching excellence, you can see from that rating, and that is independently assessed by the government. And this is what we got. We are also holders of the UKVI sponsorship license. That means we can recruit international students. And the rest are just slides where if you click the links, you will find our publicly available, our quality assurance report each year, our British Accredited Council, another body which validates the whole institution. You will see our report there on every, I think they looked at about 30 aspects, and they were fully satisfied in all the 30 aspects. And external examiners are quite happy with our report, so it's all there. And then some of our facilities. On the next slide, you will see that if you look at our library, it is one of the largest Islamic library in Europe, containing Islamic resources. So we've got very large collection of Arabic sources, Turkish sources, Urdu sources, and also English on all the subjects. In addition to Islamic subjects, all the other subjects which we teach, sustainable development, management, education, philosophy, all those books are there. There is a small gymnasium, a prayer hall is on the campus, and we hold Jummah prayer, 5-time prayer there as well. We have a very large conference center. There's a cafeteria for students, and there's very large sports field for the students as well. So you can go on our website and see some of the other images which you have. On the next slide, you can click on some of the information. And we have a few videos on our YouTube, our vision, our academic culture, our courses, and also what our students are saying. It's all there. And then on the next slide is just some pictures of some of our lecturers and some of our teachers, you know, who have been teaching. Yeah. Now, finally, I come to the very last slide, where is entry requirements. For the BA degree, we need students to have GCSEs, and out of the GCSEs, if you want to do BA Islamic Studies with education, then you must have 5 GCSEs with English and maths as a must. If you want to do BA Islamic Studies, BA Islamic Finance and Accounting, you will need GCSEs, but maths and English at GCSEs is a must. But for all the other BAs, English is essential, maths is not essential, but we need 5 GCSEs. Now, after GCSEs, if you have A-levels, that will be helpful. Or if you have an Alim course, that will be helpful as well. And those who have an Alim course with the GCSEs, they get exemptions from year 1 of the course. But if you have only A-levels, then you have to do all the 3 years of the degree course. And for the master's courses, you have to have a UK recognized degree in any subject. So I will finish here. So these are some of our entry requirements for the different courses. So if you have any questions, you know, we can have a, sorry I went on for too long. We can now take your questions, inshallah.
Jazakallah for that, Dr. Zahid. That was very, very helpful. We are going to start taking questions, but if I can start by asking some questions, if that's possible. Just from the last point, you mentioned that to be exempt from, or to join the MA, one must have a UK recognized degree. What if someone has a recognized degree, say in Pakistan or in any other country? Would that be accepted at the institute?
Okay, here I want to share with you a couple of things. At the master's level, we accept a range of different qualifications and also work experience. Yeah. So let me look at the qualifications first. By UK recognized, I mean if you have a, say, qualification from Pakistan, an MA or a BA, or from India or from Africa, there is a UK national body which all universities refer to is called NARIC. And what we do, we ask the students to send their certificate to that body, which then comes back and produces a certificate which tells us what level is that according to UK qualifications. Yeah. So for example, a BA in Pakistan is not normally equivalent to a BA in this country, but a master's degree from Pakistan is equivalent to a BA degree. So NARIC will tell us, taking each degree, it has a standard through which they can let us know whether this certificate is equivalent to our certificate in the UK. Yeah. So it's a body called NARIC, and any international student have to submit their certificates to NARIC, and then we look at the certificate to see what level they are. Now the other thing is, if you don't have a UK recognized degree, however you have a degree from other countries but it's not directly equivalent to a UK degree, we also look at your work experience. Say you want to do an MA in Islamic education and you've got 5 years or more teaching experience. It doesn't matter in a Darul Uloom or in a mainstream school. We take that experience into consideration, because at a degree level, we look at, has the student met the learning outcomes of a degree? Can the student write critically? Can the student think independently? Can the student analyze text and solve problems? So if they meet the graduate attributes, so that means that they have to go through RPL process, where we look at the experience, we look at the qualifications, we sit with them. We do try our best to accept students, even if they are lacking in some of the entry qualifications.
Right. Just for example, Dr. Zahid, so for instance, there's a number of students that I know who are also actually teaching at our institute. So for instance, they've done the whole Alimiyyah, plus they added a bit more courses alongside that at a local college called Ibrahim College, who you may have heard of. So I think, for example, with Ibrahim College, it's slightly different to a lot of the mainstream Darul Ulooms, where they do a bit more critical analysis, and they are doing essays and theses alongside their traditional studies. So for instance, if someone graduates from there, do you think they may have a chance of joining the MA program because of the critical studies that they may have done over the period of, I don't know, 5 to 7 years, alongside working for another few years at local institutes, not maybe Darul Ulooms, but maybe at after-school madrasas of some sort?
Yeah. Now, if they've done additional qualifications, we will definitely look at that. But can I just share with you, we have taken some of the students from Ibrahim College, and initially about 4 or 5 years ago, we did put some of them straight onto the master's programs. And however, they did struggle.
Right.
They did struggle. So what we have done since then, we have taken on some of the, those who only have the Darul Uloom, but they've done other courses from other institutions, but they have work experience as well. We do take that on board. So just because a person does not have a BA UK equivalent degree, that does not mean to say we will not accept them on the masters. So we do look at their work experience. We do look at their additional qualifications as well as their Darul Uloom, such certificate.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah for this. That's very, very useful.
Can I also here say this? This is so important, that if a person wants to become a qualified teacher, and this has happened, some of the students face this problem. They were led to believe that if from a Darul Uloom degree they go straight onto a master's, they can automatically go onto a PGCE. They found out that no university in this country will accept anybody, even if they have a master's degree from the UK, onto a PGCE course if they do not have a BA degree. So BA degree is a must if you want to do PGCE.
That's very, very important for us to know, Dr. Zahid. And also, just to ask, so if someone is coming from Darul Uloom, you're saying that they can join your BA from the second year. Is that right? And would you like to give a bit more advice on that as well?
Yeah. Okay. So those who have simply done the Alim course, they get exemptions from year 1 and they start in year 2. However, again, if I can say, Newman University's regulations, they say we can give exemptions of a maximum of half of a degree course. That means we can give exemptions for 1.5 years of a 3-year course. So if somebody, say, is on the BA Islamic Studies with Arabic, then if the Arabic is very good and they've continued to develop the Arabic after the Alim course, that means that Arabic modules they may be exempted from. So a 40 credit module at level 5 and a 20 credit module at level 5. So that means their modules which they have to do will be even more reduced. So they might end up with just over 1.5 years.
Right, that's really interesting. So if there is someone coming from Darul Uloom and they are interested in joining, say, year number 2 of the BA Islamic Studies, is there any advice you could give them on what else they could work on in order to have kind of a smooth start in year number 2? And then we'll take some questions from our audience as well.
Yeah. Can I say that most of the level 5 students in the first year, when they join us, they do really struggle with their critical reading and critical writing. Writing skills are not up to what a university standard should be. So what we have done, we have included a number of extra sessions where we explain exactly how to structure essays, how to write, and all those things. But and we've got extra support for them. However, if they can sort of widen their reading, and if they can start reading critically, that means they don't just digest books blindly, but after they've read a book, they reflect over that book and say, do I agree with everything which this reader says? Which perspective, which school of thought, which hadith they have used, could they have used other hadiths to support their views, and so on and so forth. And that will really help them before they start. And also, those who join at level 5, some of them do ask us if they can have some advanced reading material, and we are willing to help them in that way as well.
Jazakallah. So we've got some questions coming forward. So I think we'll share a bit of those and then we'll ask you further questions. So we've got a question here which says, what are the potential career routes for someone who has studied the BA in Islamic Studies at Markfield? What potential routes could they take for their career?
If you look at our website, I'm just trying to put it on. Under each course, we have highlighted some of the career paths which people can go for. I'm just trying to upload this now. If you take the BA Islamic Studies and go to our course, at the bottom, towards the bottom of that page, it will list career paths. And there I've written that it's graduates with the BA Islamic Studies or BA Islamic Studies with Arabic are very beneficial for going to policy making, becoming imams and religious ministers, chaplains, plus they can become lecturers and so on. So our graduates, some of them have gone on to do go on the PGCE route. Some of them have gone and to work for local authorities or for some research institutions. Like one charity was saying to me, they're looking for graduates who can then do, they will employ them, they will do research within the community to look at the extent of domestic violence, to look at the elderly care needs, so that they can develop their future plans in light of that research. So there's a lot of room for research area. The civil services people go on to, they become educational consultants, they become advisors in universities, hospitals, in prisons. Some of them have become journalists, some of them have gone into translation, pastoral care, community services, international work, interfaith relations, Sharia advisors. So there's a wide range of things they can go on. So what we are trying to do is say to the students, there is a big word out there in addition to becoming imams. Now there's our ulamas can create their own sort of businesses, because there's a huge need now for online services, question answers, short courses. So people are beginning to move in this very diverse areas.
Yep, Jazakallah. And also, I've noticed you mentioned the BA in economics and banking and finance. Which direction can some of the alims or muftis who would want to do these courses? What kind of direction could they take in terms of their career paths?
Yeah, again, if you go on the website, we've got a range of things, and a lot of in fact, our Masters in Islamic Banking has been the oldest course. We've run it for over 20 years. In the past, majority of our students were international. So they went back, they became deans of faculties, they became Sharia advisors in banks, commercial and investment banks, and they developed new sort of financial products for banks. They worked for government bodies, money markets, insurance companies, non-governmental agencies, development work. So a lot of our charities now are looking at zakat and setting up waqfs. And they need advisors in these areas. Yet the Takaful, London is becoming the hub of Islamic finance, sukuk and Takaful and Islamic capital markets and things like that. So a lot of them go into these areas.
Jazakallah. We're going to move on to another question now. It's regarding the London branch, and I think that's what everyone's really wanting to hear about. Are all courses currently running at the London branch? So all the courses that you spoke about and mentioned, how many of them will be at the London branch? Where would the London branch be? What are we looking at? Could you tell us more about the London branch in those terms?
Okay, the London branch, we only started this semester from February. And then middle of March, we had this COVID-19 problem. So we went online. So we had 3 students on the MSc Islamic Economics and Finance. And we had 4 students starting on the BA Islamic Studies with Arabic. Because Newman had to approve that venue. It's in East London, LMC, 3rd floor. And there are very good large classes there. And they have a library on the 4th floor. So, they had to approve it. It is registered for education. On the 2nd floor, they have a school, actual school running there as well. So at the moment, we are using that. However, if there is another close by place which is registered for education, which is more easily accessible, but this is really accessible to a lot of people, then we are open to that suggestion. So at the moment, we are planning to start from there again in September. Now, which course we will start? Again, we are marketing all of our courses. Any course which has 7 people minimum, we will start on that course. Otherwise, it's not viable for us. Yeah, we need a minimum of 7 students. Yeah. Now, can I also say those who start in London will be required to attend Markfield at least 3 times a year. The induction program and the induction sessions, which are so important, there they begin to understand our welfare, student support system, library services, tutor support, our online Moodle, how they can access, submit their assignments, all those guidelines will be given. And then towards end of each semester, they will have to come once so that they can get one personal from other tutors as well support. Yeah. So 3 times a year minimum they will need to come, and for graduation they will have to come to Markfield. Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Absolutely. And I remember coming to the Markfield area, we had to go to the publishing house because one of our professors, a part of one of our departments, writing a book on Islam and evolution. And it's a very nice, very beautiful space to be. And I remember praying Jummah there as well. It's a very beautiful masjid as well in that site. Okay, just another point from someone, one of our audience members. Have the career paths been highlighted under the MA courses too? I think they're referring to your website.
Yeah, basically every course you click on towards the end, it has to have by law the career paths there.
Right.
So every course, if you have a look, it's got the career path, it's got contact hours. So everything there is a legal requirement, and it's a requirement by the CMA, Consumer and Marketing Authority. And you have to comply, because according to them, students are our customers. And when they start, they have to formally sign a contract with us. Yeah. And that contract has to be approved by the Office for Students. So we've got it approved by them. Yeah.
Right. Jazakallah. So let's move on to a few more questions that we have coming on. And I think the next one is a very important one, which is on the mind of many of the students and staff. Could you touch on the fees and expenses? So fees plus expenses, how much can a student expect to spend in one academic year? Are there any funding options available? So 2-3 questions in one there.
Yeah. If you can again go onto our website, yeah, under the study here, it's got important information for students. Under there is, we are supposed to make everything transparent. The hidden costs of study are also, so fees and funding is there. So anybody who lives in England, can I emphasize it's England, not UK. So those who are in England, not in Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, they are eligible to apply for student loans. So majority of our students have opted for that route. And we are registered with the Students' Loan Company because we are approved by the Office for Students. So that means any student who gets an offer letter from us, they can then immediately contact the Students' Loan Company, who will then facilitate the process of student loans. Now, because our fees are almost half compared to any other university, because we know our students, the background they come from, they do have difficulties, and we want to open up pathways. We are a charity, we want to help as much. We try to contact charities to help us, to meet our costs. So each year we do make a deficit, and then we try to approach the charities. So our fees at the moment are £5,500 for Markfield and £6,000 a year for London, because of the extra costs we have in London. Yeah.
Sorry, was that 6,500 for London?
6,000 for London and 5,500 for Markfield.
Right.
And that's for the new students starting in September.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So students are eligible for student loans, or they want to pay themselves, they can pay in installments.
Right.
Yeah. In addition to that, the other costs are their own, obviously, travel from home to the venue, their food costs, bus tickets, whatever. So these are the, in addition to that, for the graduation ceremony, they have to hire their own gowns and other costs attached with the graduation ceremony, their photos and everything else, just like any other university.
Right.
Yeah. And when they study, they have to pay for their own lunch and everything.
Yep. Moving on to another question, are there any online distant learning options? So even maybe the BA that's being taught in the classroom, are there any options for online learning or distance learning with those?
Yeah. Most of our courses are run what we call blended learning mode. That means in class plus students who are not able to attend or participate, they can get all the material online through Moodle. But also tutors after the class, they give students work online as well. So it's a blended learning, online and in class, blended together. However, we don't know what's going to happen in September, about our situation today. We're waiting for government advice. If they say we will continue to teach online, because at the moment we have to teach online, then online path will be available. But if we go to a strongly blended learning method, then we might have some classes through direct contact in class and some of them online. Yeah. However, if it goes back to normal, then the most of the classes will be face-to-face with online support.
Right. There was a question that I missed earlier, and I think it's a student from Pakistan, and I think you've already answered it in your question, but I'll still bring it up just in terms of fairness. What of someone came with an MA from Pakistan? So someone's a madrasa graduate from a Darul Uloom in Pakistan, which is equivalent to MA. What will they do? I'm guessing it's the same thing you mentioned about NARIC, that they will take their degree to NARIC and they will give the equivalent certificate, which will then be presented to yourselves. Am I right?
You are correct, absolutely. For every international student, this is a UK VI regulation that we have to prove to them that their qualifications are UK equivalent. So every international student have to submit their qualification to NARIC and send us the certificate.
Doctor, on that point, can I just mention a quick anecdote with a story with myself? So after I graduated from Dewsbury Darul Uloom, and then I did a degree and a master's separately at the universities of London, and then I wanted to do a PGCE. And I remember I got in after doing my degree and master's, and we had this conference for RE, and sitting next to me was another Muslim, and we got talking, and we started talking to each other. We found out we did Darul Uloom Alimiyyah courses. He did it in Pakistan. I did it here in West Yorkshire. And when we got speaking, I told him how I got into the PGCE. I had to do a degree first, and then I did a master's of my own choice. And then he told me that actually he was able to get into a PGCE directly, because in Pakistan the Darul Uloom Alimiyyah is understood to be an equivalent of an MA, and when it was translated by NARIC or whichever body was there at the time, its equivalency came to a BA. Hence, he was able to come directly onto a PGCE course. Has there been anything done by Markfield or the research program or professors or anyone from Markfield who's actually thought about just the fact that, for instance, someone doing a similar Alimiyyah course in Pakistan can have their certificate proven to be equivalent to an MA, and then it comes down to a BA here in England, recognized BA, whereas someone studying a similar course here in England, theirs is absolutely of no value at all. I mean, what's your understanding of that? What has come of that from Markfield?
Yeah, I think there are a number of Darul Ulooms who try to get their qualifications recognized in this country. But you see, we need to know how the system works here, that anything level 4 and above, yeah, it has to be approved by a university. Government can't interfere. Yeah, anything below level 3, it can be approved by Ofqual. So these are the bodies. So Darul Ulooms themselves, if they are not recognized by Ofqual or a university, their qualifications will not be recognized. So that's why we came in to offer this pathway and say to the Darul Uloom, within 2 more extra years, you can get a proper recognized degree, convert your qualifications to a degree. Yeah, there is no other way. There is no other way. And secondly, most of the Darul Uloom, because they operate like schools, no universities I know or have been so far even will go near them to validate them. Yeah, because you have to be operating like a university. So it's a chicken and the egg situation. And when we look at the Darul Ulooms, we had a meeting. We brought about 15, 20, principals of different Darul in 2010, 11, when we were developing the BA Islamic Studies. It was clear that we realized from the questions which are set to the Darul students in the examination, that these questions are really not higher education level questions. They're more descriptive, testing their knowledge, understanding, rather than independent thinking, evaluation, analysis, synthesis. Yeah. So they're supposed to learn things and then duplicate that. Yeah. So this is why I don't know any university will approve them in the near future. But we feel we've met all the criteria to become a university. All we need is to show this financial sustainability for 10 years. Now, that what's holding us back on that is we need to increase our student numbers. So if we can increase our student number, if we become a university, because we met all the criteria, then we will be in a better position to accept the Darul Uloom's qualifications in some way and make them nationally recognized. So so we are asking the Muslim community to help us so that we can help the community indirectly.
Right.
Mima is here, and Abdullah, if you want to ask them, and before we carry on.
Yep. So so Hamima, just to bring you on, if you'd like to share any of your experiences, what you feel about the Markfield Institute in terms of kind of inspiring our students or inspiring our viewers to join as well. So go ahead and inspire them, inshallah.
Yep, Hamid. I had completed an Alimiyyah course in Nottingham in Jamia Huda, and I graduated from there in 2008. So after finishing in Jamia, I went on to teach at a number of Islamic schools in London. And I always intended to pursue an academic education, but I got married and I had my children. So that was kind of on the back burner for a bit. So alhamdulillah, now that my kids are older, I enrolled at Markfield in 2019 in January. I joined the BA Islamic Studies, an Arabic course. I always wanted to continue with Islamic studies because I felt that as a Darul Uloom graduate, it was really important to do something in the academic sphere that could combine my Dini knowledge in an academic arena. And Markfield presented a wonderful opportunity for this. The fact that there was the exemption of doing the first year was a huge bonus for me because given my age, being a mature student and having a young family of my own, this all fit in really nicely. The admission process was pretty straightforward. The administrators were always really eager to answer my questions and help me along the process a lot. I had loads of questions, like some of the questions that the audience have asked to do with fees and things like that, and how I'd managed to incorporate it in my existing schedule. Alhamdulillah, that process was really made easy for me. When I went in to see the grounds at Markfield, I think that's when I really felt like, what, this is the right space for me. Because anybody who goes to Markfields and sees that environment, the grounds and the masjid, there's a special type of sakina there. And then when I saw the higher education building as well, I was again really impressed because we don't see modern buildings in many Islamic institutes, and all the classrooms were quite modern, they were spacious. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I joined Markfield in January 2019, and my experience, alhamdulillah, has been really wonderful. The tutors are really good because they are people of really high caliber. They are, at the top of their fields, but it's matched with an equally impressive Islamic education. And that is really important to see, because unfortunately we don't normally see a combination of both. We see either or, and this was an eye-opening experience. And then for me, returning back to education and then seeing, it was a mixed class. It's a mixed class, but there isn't segregation enforced, but the brothers sit on one side and the sisters sit on one side. And even with our Darul Uloom educations, we kind of mixed with people who had similar opinions to us. So when I started Markfield, and some of my classmates were from very varying backgrounds, but also their Islamic educations were from different countries abroad, different cities around the UK. And this was a really beautiful thing to see so many different Muslims of different backgrounds coming together and having discussions on things that are important and contemporary in our society, and seeing how beautifully they bridge all the differences together. And I think, these are things that made me realize that coming to Markfield was definitely the best decision for me. The tutors were all very helpful, very approachable, alhamdulillah. We don't, as well, another thing is we don't see many female scholars, and at Markfield, seeing that there are female staff members that had studied extensively even in the Middle East and come to the UK, and doctors in their own fields, it's very inspirational as a young woman, because this is something that I go away with, or that I look up to, these people that I can talk to children about, my little girl. Like what Dr. Zahid said, as an Alimiyyah student, my principal of my Jamia actually said to me, Hamima, you've got to say to Markfield that you've completed your Alimiyyah and you've been in the community for a number of years. You can go straight into the Mark program, But I went into the BA program and I went into year 2. And to be honest with you, initially I struggled because I really wasn't used to this level of academic writing. I wasn't used to, I didn't have the skills to do the critical reading and the analysis. But, the students and the tutors there, they all helped me along. And alhamdulillah, it wasn't too long before I picked up on those skills. But definitely to start from year 2 of the BA program was a good thing for me. The thing is, when we study in Darul Ulooms, right? Yes, we learn loads of hadith and evidences and how to present different arguments. But when you study Islamic studies in an academic sphere, it's different, because you learn to express yourself, your opinions, in a non-emotive way, and to be extremely respectful of other opinions. And this is something that if I hadn't come to Markfield, it's a skill that I wouldn't have acquired, So yeah, one of the things that really inspired me is a lot of the teachers at Markfield studied extensively in the UK and abroad, and something that they continuously encourage us is to never stop studying. And if I hadn't gone to Markfield, I don't think I would have thought about studying more after my BA. So while being at Markfield, it cemented in me that, I've taught for a number of years, and initially I wanted to follow it up with a PGCE. But now I feel that, the kind of work that I want to do is to essentially be in this people. And Chaplains really kind of embodied that. And so at Markfield, they do a certificate in chaplaincy course, which I'm on as well. And this has, my vision of helping people and the things that I want to do, this has all come together for me, alhamdulillah. And for me, definitely, this has been the perfect institute. Anyone who's considering it, who's on the fence, I definitely encourage you to look into it. Come and see the site, come and meet the staff, come and meet the students, because it really is something that is second to none in the UK. Yeah, that's it.
Jazakallah for that, Hamima. Can I just ask you a few questions? So, and you can just answer them all together and you're done. So when you joined in the second year, did you have enough support in terms of essay writing and critical thinking? Because obviously you're joining after almost a decade of actual learning, but also because you've come from a traditional madrasa darul uloom background, you don't really write essays as much as I gather that one would in a university setting. So what kind of support mechanism is there? That's one of the main questions. And secondly, in terms of the branch in London, will it have the same kind of student-teacher relationships, and maybe, will there be places available, for instance, at the LMC where students can get together, do their work together, eat together? Will that environment be there as well? The second part might be better for Dr. Zahid, but Hamima, if you can answer the first question, maybe.
So the first question about the support that was available, definitely support was available. What happens is at the beginning of the semester we have the induction days, and we have a couple of days of like writing workshops and things like that. When I started the course as well, there were other tutors that come in for support in terms of helping your writing skills and to develop those. And once I made it clear to my teachers that, I've been out of education for a long time, every single one of them encouraged me to book appointments to see them so that they could help me. And this, again, I can't stress how apprehensive I was before I started about going back to education after such a break. But once I started, everything fell together like a jigsaw puzzle. Alhamdulillah. About the London branch, what you said is, so actually I'm from London originally, and the London branch is quite new. I haven't met the students at that branch, so I can only comment on Markfield and how things are run there. The library in Markfield is very extensive, and the opening hours are great. So, on the days that I couldn't pop in after a lecture, I could go in whenever I wanted to, because I live in Leicester, so I don't live far from it. I would say to the people that are considering joining, definitely come and have a look at the facilities that are available on site in Markfield, because they've been there for a number of years, and the library is amazing.
Dr. Zahid, if you'd like to answer the second part of the question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, if you'd like to answer the second part of the question regarding the London branch, is it going to be similar to Markfield in the sense where students can get together, work together, maybe eat together, do their work together? I mean, the library in the London Institute, how good is it compared to Markfield? Do you have, would you be extending that as well as you have with Markfield?
Yes, a couple of things here. First of all, we will be expanding the library, whichever venue we use in London. So for each course, we will be adding the books which we feel are important for the student. However, we also have online resources which are more important for our graduate students doing the BA and the MA. We have, online resources which includes thousands of journals, e-books, which universities use. We have EBSCO, which has a resource on law, on education, on theology and philosophy, and on other areas. And we also have what we call JSTOR, which is again international. So again, it has a huge range of literature on there. So most of the students use online resource, and increasingly more and more online resources will be used. So the libraries are now becoming spaces for students to study and to consult some of the books which are not online. Yeah, so we will have mixture of the library and online resources together.
Okay, Jazakallah for that, Dr. Zahid. And also those who have joined us midway, I would just recommend, this session is recorded, and straight as soon as it finishes, it will be available online on our YouTube channel, also Facebook. And also I think Dr. Zahid will also put a link up on his Facebook as well. So do go back and watch it. There have been a few questions that have come up, which you've already answered, Dr. Zahid, but I think there's one question which has just come up and you have answered it, but I think it'll be a good time now to summarize that before we finish, if that's okay. And the question is from Ustadh Zainab Yaqub, who's also a teacher at our madrasa, our institute. She's saying, Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair for this session. Why can't a Darul Uloom graduate go straight onto an MA program? So I'll just like to repeat that this has been answered extensively by Dr. Zahid, and also Hamima, I think, put some kind of emphasis on why not as well. But I think if Dr. Zahid, if you can summarize that, that will also be helpful at this closing point of our session.
Like I said, we had a meeting with the Darul Uloom principals. We looked at the syllabi of a lot of Darul Ulooms, and we tried to develop our BA based on that. Now, a requirement of higher education is that higher education does not focus on knowledge only. Darul Ulooms, they focus on imparting knowledge to students. So they focus on the ulooms. We focus on the study of Islam. Now, study of Islam includes looking at a particular issue historically, from jurisprudence, from theology, from non-Muslim perspectives, Orientalist perspective. We have to look at an issue, whatever topic we look, from a range of perspectives. So when you study something, you look at it, and that is not included. So jumping from Darul Uloom straight to a master's, there will be a gap in the students' academic skills and ability to analyze and apply knowledge. So at the higher education, we focus on knowledge, but application of knowledge, synthesis, and critical evaluation of knowledge. So these skills take years to develop. Yeah, that's why those 2 years, become very helpful for students, and then they can go on to master. But going straight from Darul Uloom, like I said, we did used to recruit in the early days, but we stopped very quickly because the external examiners, basically, they were very upset at the standard of work which was produced by the students. So we as an institution would get into trouble, serious trouble. So that's why we said no, Darul Ulooms, the maximum exemption we can give is level 4, which maps onto the Alim course to some extent, and then they go into level 5. So they will have to do 2 more years. That is the main reason, is to build your academic skills.
Jazakallah for that. And yeah, I think you've clarified it very, very well, and the reasoning behind it as well, which I think many people who have applied, or many of us, were unaware of. So Jazakallah for doing that, Dr. Zahid. But I think from what I've seen today, I think the unique selling point with Markfield Institute is that there is some recognition of Darul Uloom Alimiyyah program, and that is that Darul Uloom graduates are able to join the second year of a degree. So that already kind of, you can say, saves you £5,500 or £6,000 if you're going to either be in London or Markfield. So again, you're joining a second year, and the degree pricing is half that of a normal BA degree. So normal BA degree would be anywhere between £9,000 to £10,000, whereas here it's either £5,500 if you're attending Markfield and £6,000 if you're attending the London branch. So I think that in itself is a very unique selling point, and we'd like to thank the university for that, and for at least trying their best, and also allowing students some years ago to join in the master's program, but because they're coming from a learning experience which is pretty much descriptive or passing on knowledge, as opposed to what Dr. Zahid was talking about in the early stages about the creation of knowledge, which he spoke about in detail. So I think it's a great unique selling point for Markfield Institute, and I think for alims and alimas, this is a great opportunity to not only do a BA, but to start from the second year. And as Hamima mentioned, there are a lot of support mechanisms in place if you are going to be struggling, because remember, there's 2 different learning experiences that you're going to have. You've come from the Darul Uloom, and then you're entering a more academic, critical, where you're doing a lot of critical analysis, creation of knowledge. So you will feel that difference. And here they are facilitating for you to continue on your journey in academia. And then after that, after you've done your BA, you shouldn't have any issues joining the MA, because you have the BA from Markfield, and I'm guessing because you've done the BA now and it's complete, you'll be able to join any master's course anywhere in the country. So that's also an option. To finish off, Dr. Zahid, if there's anything left that you wanted to mention, please do so. And also, if you would like to finish off with any kind of nasiha for anyone who wants to join Markfield Institute on their journey ahead, inshallah.
Yeah, can I say for the BA, another selling point is that you have to do 3 modules in each semester, and 3 modules means each module is 3 hours per week. So it's 9 hours. It comes to 1.5 days per week, which is full time. Yeah, and the rest of the time you study yourself with the guided learning. Yeah, so it's not a big demand on time. Yes, assignments do take a lot of time, and so that's towards the middle and the end of the semester. So those who are thinking of doing a degree, keep in mind that you may think it's very difficult for yourself, but you will be getting a lot of support, and time wise you'll be able to adjust your other work and your studies together. Now, as a nasiha, if I can emphasize, I have been now working in different organizations. And
Dr. Zahid, sorry, before you give your nasiha as the conclusion of this session, there's just one last question, but I had a question just in practical terms. So currently, as I understand, the first year has already passed of the BA in London, and from this September, will it be the second year of BA? And if any alims or alimas want to join that second year, do they still have the time to do that now?
Oh yes, in September it'll be a new cohort. Yeah, so those who apply in September, they will be in a separate class.
Right, and is that second year BA also starting in September, or is it starting from the first year?
Now in London, we started with a group. Currently, they started in level 5, which is a second year. So in September, if we get 7 or more applicants who have the alim degree, then they will be starting as a class in September, as a separate class.
Right, and that's second year.
That's second year, yeah.
Okay.
So they will actually get exemption from level 4 if they have an alim degree.
Brilliant. So just to and then just to bring on the last question from before your nasiha to conclude, Ridwan Ahmed Umar is asking, for potential students living in London, is there an option to study the BA programs online if there aren't enough students for the East London LMC campus?
We will try our best to accommodate students' needs and times. However, in-class has its own value, because students, all the research shows that they actually learn from each other as well. Yeah, in the classroom environment. Although online does try to cater for these things, but it is not the same. So if everything is back to normal in September, we will have in-class teaching. However, if some students miss some classes, then they will be able to catch up. And we might make some of the classes live as well, so they can participate remotely. So we are working on those things at the moment.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah for that, Dr. Zahid. And before you give your nasiha, I would like to say, Jazakallah for being here, giving us your time, to yourself, Dr. Zahid, and also to Hamima as well for sharing her very valuable experience with our students as well. So Dr. Zahid, inshallah, if you could conclude with the nasiha for those potential students who may be joining you, inshallah, or do intend to join you.
Yeah, thank you very much. If I can just emphasize on this, 30-40 years I have been working with many Muslim communities, Arabs, Turks, Pakistanis, Bengalis, even Bosnian community. When I started as a lecturer at Wolverhampton University in 1992, I was the only Muslim lecturer in the whole university at that time. So even after 10, 15, 20 years, very few Muslims, became lecturers, and they played a role intellectually in our society. So when we lack this intellectuals, scholars who are able to play an effective role in society, then the communities will have no option because they have no one to guide them. They will be very emotional. They will react to their issues in a very emotional way, and they will not be able to solve some of the challenges which they are facing. This is why Islam has emphasized a lot on knowledge. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. It is compulsory in some hadith. So I urge everyone, never ever stop learning. Whether you want to do the degree or not, it doesn't matter, but your learning must continue. There are two types of learning. One is which you learn from books through listening to scholars and so on. And one is where you reflect over your own experiences. You've done something, you've organized some event or activity, you reflect on it, learn from it, improve in the future. So learning comes through many different ways. And this is what Tawbah really means, that you reflect over every action, you reflect over the state of your heart, mind and soul, and see, is it on the right guidance? Am I an effective Muslim? Have I deviated in any way? And to do your Tawbah, and then to make a resolve that you want to now improve, develop, get closer to Allah's guidance and win His pleasure. Now, Muslims, whenever in the past, they provided the world with leadership in governance, leadership in every field you can see. And it was Islamic leaders and scholars which then brought the world out of the dark ages and brought them into light. Now, unfortunately, the world is going back into darkness. Materialism has taken hold, and majority of humans now, they hold on to material values. Human lives have no value. Spiritual values are not important for them. And slowly humans are becoming beasts. We are willing to kill each other. Just in the 20th century, we have, in this so-called modern civilized world, we have killed more humans than ever in the history of mankind. Over 100 million people have been killed. First World War, Second World War, Nicaragua, Vietnam, if you look at the Gulf War, so many other wars. We got such weapons of mass destruction in the hands of people who are not very wise, nor are they God-fearing. So we need intellectuals to come forward who have grounded and they have strong taqwa and knowledge and understanding of Islam and know how to apply it and provide solutions to the problem which the world is facing, not only Muslims, but the whole world. And I feel like Yusuf al-Islam, if there was a famine, he came forward. He did not wait for the people to become Muslims. He did not say, oh, these are mushrik, I will not help them. No, he came forward and he was able to use his position to give his dawah as well. So whatever situation we find ourselves, let's come forward and use our knowledge and understanding for the benefit of everyone. If we are not useful, we'll go down into the dustbins of history. If we make ourselves useful in every area, you will see that society will respect Islam and society will become Islam friendly, inshallah. When society becomes Islam friendly, then they will be positive about Islam. They will listen to us, and inshallah, through that process, maybe Allah will guide them to the right path, and we can make the whole of Europe permanent for Islam, just as all the other countries, Pakistan, India, Egypt, Algeria majority became Muslims. We should have this hope that Allah will guide human beings, but we have to play our role. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah for that, Dr. Zahid, for very important nasiha for us. And especially, I'm really hoping that many of you who are watching, students, staff, and whoever you may be, do try and apply as soon as possible for that second year of the BA, that's if you've done the Alimiyyah course, and try and get in, because I mean it's the first, it's a very new course. Markfield have come to London. You don't want to miss out on this choice. And I think if this was happening when I was looking for courses, I ultimately went to Haythrop College, University of London, which have merged with another university because of the whole materialism and the policies that have changed. And then I went to Queen Mary. I think I definitely would have joined the Markfield Institute, because of what it's offering, the merging of the academic and traditional. So it's not just going to be academic, as Dr. Zahid mentioned, that there's also a focus on character building as well at a university. That's very unique. So Jazakallah for doing all of this for the Ummah and facilitating this wonderful institute for the Ummah, and lastly bringing it over to London for us as well. We'll finish on this point with our dua. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.